I'm Mike Gill. This is the Sports Bash. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, covers the NFL, is back. There's some NFL stuff going on today. I know Carson Wentz is talking out in Indianapolis. The Eagles' voice, Merrill Reese, was talking today, and he thinks he knows something that all of us have been waiting for a while. I know, Jeff, I think you got a chance to catch up with Mike Ditka. So we got a lot to dive into today. What's going on, man?
Yeah, Mike. The Mike Ditka interview was pretty interesting, to say the least. I know Bears fans are kind of, I want to say, divided on what Ditka says at this point because he's 81 years old, but he had a lot of good tidbits. And, I think he really liked how I dove into early in his coaching career when he was a really good wide receivers coach for a number of years.
Yeah, so you talked to Ditka, I guess, concerning the quarterback position out there and what he thinks they should do at that spot. I think Bears fans are probably united on this one.
Oh, yeah, and it's funny, they agree with the answer, but they don't agree with who said the answer. And they're like, well, look, he waited on Jim McMahon, and Aaron Rodgers waited, and Patrick Mahomes waited. Well, they were in different situations. The Packers had Brett Favre. The Chiefs had Alex Smith. Who do the Bears have? Andy Dalton? Are you really going to start Andy Dalton over Justin Fields? Mike Dick is absolutely right. You play this guy week one. That's why you drafted him.
Obviously, and by the way, Ditka. Now, I thought that Ditka is like a cult figure out there. Like, isn't he beloved by everybody? He won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he is, but I guess he said some. I don't really know all the details, but I guess he said some kind of senile things over the years in regards to football. And, I mean, look, the guy's 81. He's no spring chicken anymore, and he thinks old time football. I got an answer from him about, the Bears defense. Well, you got to install the fear of God in the defense. And I'm like, all right, Mike, I get it. But I mean, overall, it was a great interview. Had a lot of good answers. He actually didn't want to get into his time with the Eagles too much. He said, that's just a time in his life that pretty much, I'm paraphrasing myself here or him, but, he said he kind of likes to forget that time. He said nothing to do with the fans, but he was there when the fans threw snowballs at Santa Claus. He said it was just a bad time there. They were really bad. He couldn't wait to get out, but he said it had nothing to do with the fan base. He said he loved the Eagles fans when he was in Philadelphia.
Speaking of Eagles fans, they couldn't wait for Carson Wentz to get out of town. And with that, Carson Wentz is speaking today, and he has a lot to say. He talked about his new passion for the game all of a sudden.
Yeah, new passion for the game. I guess Philadelphia took the passion out of football for Carson Wentz. And look, I mean, that 10-minute interview with Beth Fool today was something from Valley News Live. She's had a couple of interviews with Carson Wentz over the years, but I mean, this one was really good. Wentz opened up on pretty much his time in Indianapolis so far, and he didn't really go too in depth of what happened last year, but you could tell a lot of things were bothering him, and he seemed to blame it on COVID a lot, which I really can't blame him in that regard. Carson Wentz always reminded me of a guy who wanted to get with his younger teammates, with Jalen Reagor and those guys, and he really didn't have that opportunity. He didn't try to bend the rules like Tom Brady did. I think he took COVID very seriously, and honestly, I think Carson Wentz, is a practice player. I think he needed those reps. He needed to get into game shape, in April and May, and he just couldn't do it, Mike. And it's unfortunate for Carson Wentz that this happened, but, I think he blames COVID a little too much. I agree with what he's saying, but at the end of the day, too, the Jalen Hurts thing really rocked him to his core, and now he's got this newfound love for football. I guess so. He got traded to where he wanted to go.
Well, obviously, people, the media out there isn't really going to kind of press him on a lot of stuff, too. It's a little different spot being out in Indianapolis than in Philadelphia, because if he had a chance to talk to the Philadelphia media, I think it would be a much different type of conversation, don't you?
Oh God, Mike, you mentioned you and me got to grill Carson Wentz for 5 minutes on what happened with the Eagles. He'd walk out of the interview in 30 seconds.
He would probably be a little flustered on that. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. All right, so interestingly enough, we have talked so much about Zach Ertz and what his future might be. We all assume he's going to be traded. Well, today, the voice of the Eagles, Merrill Reese, essentially said, yeah, he's going to get traded, and I know where he's going. It's Buffalo. So how much stock do you put into Merrill Reese and what he said?
Well, Merle Reese also said, I don't have any inside information, but here's some inside information. You know what? I don't know, honestly, with Merle Reese. Like, he's Eagles play-by-play guy, but he works, but he has connections in that organization, so he has to know something, right?
That's always a tough one. I always wonder how much the people that work for the team, how much information do they really have? And you wonder, like, who are these sources? How does things get out? So, like when you're talking to anybody, Tom McGinnis, Mark Zumoff, when he just retired, Tom McCarthy, any of these guys, how much information are they privy to? I don't have any. I have no idea.
It's the same thing, Mike. I got information on an NFL team, but I can't actually say anything, right? It's not nothing like roster or anything like that. It's, something different. But yeah, it's the same thing. Like, how much do they know and how much are they leaking out? And that's pretty much what I just did. Oh, look, there's something going on with an NFL franchise. It's uniform related, believe it or not. I can't say who, but, it's one of those things where, how much are you going to give away? And that's really the basis of it.
Yeah. So with that, he says Buffalo. Does that make enough sense to you to think that, okay, he does have information and it sounds right?
Yeah, I mean, Buffalo seems to be the logical destination. They seem to be the team that has been most interested. I know the Arizona Cardinals have I think this is more Arizona-driven than anything. They kind of want Zach Ertz because they don't have a tight end. And, every time, like, the Arizona Cardinals get mentioned Zach Ertz, they kind of seem to blow it up, whether it's Vegas odds or anything like that. But really, Buffalo seems to be the most logical destination at this point. I mean, I wouldn't be let's put it this way. I wouldn't be shocked if Merle Reese was right.
All right. So by the time you're back on Friday, will Zach Ertz be in Buffalo?
I still think he's an Eagle. But by Friday, I have no idea when this is going to happen. The later it goes, the more I want to see him remain in Philadelphia. I think the Eagles are instantly better with him on the field, as I've talked about before. But man, if the Buffalo Bills are able to get Zach Ertz, can you imagine how dangerous they're going to be? I think Zach Ertz has another good year or two left of football in him.
Yeah, well, I say I agree. Somebody brought up Tony Gonzalez earlier, and he had some of his best years past 30 years old. He went to Atlanta. And still was very successful there. So if I'm Howie Roseman, I'm kind of in a weird spot because I want to clear out the cap space. I understand that. But you're Buffalo, Jeff. You're a Super Bowl contender. You can go with Dawson Knox if you want. Yeah, you can do that. But we think we can help you. You want to give me a 6th-round pick or do you want to win a Super Bowl? You're going to have to do better than that.
Exactly. And here's the thing. It's not like Dawson Knox is a bad tight end. The Bills think highly of him, but if you can win a Super Bowl this year getting Zach Ertz, and then you can move on from him after this year and say you only give up a 4th, 5th-round pick, you do it, right? I mean, this is what it takes to win a championship. The Atlanta Falcons got instantly better when they got Tony Gonzalez. Ask him how much he helped Matt Ryan in the early stages of his career. The Falcons went from like a 4-win team to a playoff team immediately. Like, tight ends, they don't grow on trees, and there are a few contrary to what Greg Olson believes how much tight ends should get paid. He thinks they should get paid more than left tackles. There really is only about 4 or 5 really good tight ends in this game, and Zach Ertz for a number of years was considered one of them.
Yeah, I think, Ertz, unfortunately, in a year that he's in his final season, got hurt and had his worst year. It was a terrible, snowball of things that all happened in this final year for him. So I don't know how this all plays out. It's like the Ben Simmons thing. This could go in a whole bunch of different directions. How much value does he have? Obviously not the same value because the last thing you saw of him was not his best.
Yeah, it's so weird, too, like how the perception of these athletes changed. Like last year, the Eagles probably could have got a 2nd-round pick for Zach Ertz just based on how productive he was. And, that's probably the highest point, but still, it's the same way. It's like you said, Mike, same way with Ben Simmons. The Sixers would have traded Ben Simmons in, say, September. They could have gotten the moon for him. They could have gotten James Harden for him. But it's the same way as Zach Ertz. Eagles could have got a high draft pick. Now it's almost like teams are trying to just say, hey, look, here's a 6th-round pick because you're going to cut him anyway. And no, if you're the Eagles, if you can afford to keep him, why not? Let him restore his value. Maybe 8 weeks from now or 8 weeks from the start of the season when the trade deadline hits, maybe you could get that 3rd-round pick for that guy.
Yep, I think I think maybe holding out may have ended up helping them there. Who knows? All right, a couple other things on the NFL with Jeff Kerr here from CBS Sports, who covers the NFL. What are we thinking about Larry Fitzgerald?
I'll tell you what, Mike. I think he should come back, but it's tough because there's going to be room for him on the Cardinals roster. But do you really want to see Larry Fitzgerald only catch 15 passes for 200 yards? Because he's pretty much going to be the fifth option there. You got Christian Kirk, you got DeAndre Hopkins, he ain't getting benched. AJ Green's there. You signed him to, I think it was a $6 million deal. So look, AJ Green's going to play. Rondale Moore, I imagine he's going to play a significant role in that offense. I love him in Arizona. I love that fit. So where does Larry Fitzgerald come in? And look, I think Larry Fitzgerald wants to be a Cardinal for his entire career, but Larry Fitzgerald opened himself up in free agency and said, hey, I want to go play here. It could be like an Andre Johnson in Tennessee or Indianapolis type of scenario, or say Art Monk with the Eagles. It could be very interesting to see what teams would take on Larry Fitzgerald, because I still think he has a little bit of good football left in him at 38.
That's all good stuff that you can read at Jeff Kerr, CBS. And then finally, Jalen Hurts has been brought up a lot in terms of lists and where he is. Donovan McNabb, though, mentioned something that I think gets kind of pushed aside a lot, is this guy's been a winner everywhere he goes.
Yeah, he's right. And look, I know Eagles fans don't really like a lot of things Donovan McNabb has to say, but he's absolutely right about Hurts. He wins everywhere he goes. Every level he's been at, he's won. And that is the one thing you want in a quarterback, no matter what his deficiencies are. And look, McNabb pretty much said, look, this guy could have a really good year, but he might not have any talent around him, which could affect his future in the NFL. And, he's right about the Eagles. Can their offensive line hold up? What's the Zach Ertz situation like? Is Miles Sanders truly a top 10 running back? Is Devonta Smith going to be this guy we all think he's going to be? And if all these questions are answered and they're good for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts is going to have a nice year and probably a really good future here in Philadelphia.
At Jeff Kerr, CBS, and of course, he'll be covering the Eagles all season long. The NFL, we'll have plenty of conversations. We are less than a month from Eagles training camp. So many storylines starting to kind of get out there. When we get to camp, we know left tackle. We know we got to figure out the wide receiver depth chart. We've got to see what happens at cornerback. We've got to find out possibly, the defensive end stuff. Do they have enough depth there? So many stories. We're almost there. Stick with us. Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports, here on a Wednesday edition of the Sports Bash. All right, Jeff, man, good to see you.
Hey, Mike, tomorrow is July 1st. We are getting to training camp slowly but surely.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame game just, 4 weeks away?
5 weeks away.
Yeah.
What day is it? It's August 5th or something like that. So maybe 6 weeks away.
Okay, well, we're looking forward to that. And, of course, training camp's July 27th for all the teams, unless the teams are playing in the Hall of Fame game. And the Thursday night teams, right?
Yeah, so it would be Dallas, Tampa, and Pittsburgh are starting early.
Gotcha. All right, Jeff Kerr, CBS Sports. Thanks, man.
Yep, sounds great. Thanks for having me on, Mike.
At Jeff Kerr, CBS, and, of course, follow him there